Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Manhood lessons in sports. Now, by the time y'all hear this will be on a Tuesday morning. People who are fans of college basketball, they would have filled out their brackets. And even people who aren't fans, they would have filled out some brackets to try to win the office pool or something like that. It's an exciting time for college b-ball fans. This is the time of year, right? But I'm gonna tell you what, I like sports in general. And in fact, I remember what this metaphysical teacher had said to me in a very rare interview that I did on a podcast, right? Not anything on YouTube and something, right? And he was saying how sports can help bring out manhood in a young boy, right? And that's some real talk because this past weekend I was watching the Atlantic 10 tournament. People who might have paid attention, know I went to St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. And this is especially for those people who think, oh, Rom don't have any letters behind his name. Yeah, okay. Anyway, right, I was watching the team play, and they had a lot of injuries and stuff, and they lost to Rhode Island. And it was a great game. St. Joe's led most of the way, but, Rhode Island was just a better team. That's all to it. So, it was just a 3-point loss. But one thing that struck me and actually inspired this podcast, they were going after each other. But then after the game, they were lining up and, giving each other those hugs, and they were just showing respect to each other. You know what? Sports teach a good lesson. Because I remember one time, it was years ago, I was, let's just say I had some affiliation with some more radical elements in the population, right? And it was specifically a woman in this group, and she was like, "Oh yeah, these men shouldn't waste time playing sports and all that. Those ain't important." And and me and her got into it a little bit. I said no, because you learn a lot of lessons in sports for a man, right? And let me tell a story, right? I played soccer actually in high school, and kept playing it for a while. But then I was coaching some young boys in playing the sport, right? I was coaching some young boys, and they were around 8 or something. I had this one kid. He was, I don't know. He was a future, possibly a future thug. I'm gonna say possibly, because he didn't have a father. I remember he had some burn marks. I think he got caught in some fire, so his face he had a special thing on his face to cover up a lot of burn marks and stuff, right? And that dude, that was a rambunctious little kid and stuff. He was ready to fight the other teammates and all of that. But I treated him, I kind of rode him with a steel hand. I stayed on him. It's he was doing some stuff, but, he had some potential. And I remember it was after a practice, and I needed the kids to line up, and they were going a little slow about it. So this dude, who some people would label a future thug, he was like, "Line up for coach." He was yelling at him. "Coach told y'all line up, get in line." I mean, he lined them up. I was like, damn, I made him team captain. You know what? I'm not sure what happened to him, but like I said, with a little bit of just showing him some little bit of love, a little bit of control, but a little bit of discipline, something came out in him. He was actually a natural leader, right? Just being in that environment, being in that sports environment. And it was important because this particular soccer team dealt with a lot of low income kids. And you'd be surprised. And this was back when soccer wasn't as popular. So, all the kids, and a lot of them were just playing it in the spring. They just to stay in shape for football anyway, which is cool. But you learn a lot. And speaking of football, you get a lot of young men across America who, other than for football, they might not have any male role models or something like that. And that you have a powerful place to really shape them. See, not only one, they learn several things about manhood. One, they learn discipline. Because if you're a coach, any coaches listening know what I'm talking about. You know, a big part of what you're dealing with young men is discipline. You know, you teaching them discipline and stuff. You teaching them little things. Like I mentioned, I had played soccer in high school, right? And because I was slimmer, I was slimmer, and plus, you know, Rom always had to do something different from everybody else. But I remember our coach, you know, before games, he would sit you. He didn't care if you were a star player. If your shoes weren't shined before the game and your uniform tight, he'd sit you down. He would sit you down. I probably shined my shoe when I was that young. I ain't shined my shoes that much. Every now and then. But with them, it was like that shoe, they would shine. You spit shined and stuff. And that was all of us. And then, you know, you get a lot of discipline and stuff just through exercises and everything. And running and physical discipline. And, you know, in a way, sports were, for many kids, were a rites of passage. Because they force you to step up. Now, one of the things I've seen like stuff in articles, you know, you don't get a lot of kids playing sports like they used to, especially young men. And it's not like they got to be pro and everything. Everybody ain't going to be a superstar, but that discipline can last a lifetime. Because it teaches you personal discipline. But another thing too, and this is an interesting part of manhood. Now, I've said in a video a long time ago, about the nature of man is to create boundaries. You know, the average man's personal boundary is about 3 feet away from him. And that's an important thing. That's an important thing with man. We create boundaries. We create territories. We're supposed to. Like a lot of women don't understand that, and shall we say more feminine men don't understand that. They don't get that. But a real man creates boundaries. He creates territories. And see, that boundary starts off with his personal boundary, but then it also extends to the people he loves and especially to his family. Like I did a video about paternity fraud and why it's so evil. And that's one of the things I talked about. One of the reasons it's evil, because when that man feels like that child is his blood, that child is in his boundary. One thing women have to understand, like specifically women, have to understand when they're in a man's boundary, when he considers her a part of his boundary, he won't put his finger on her. He won't put his fingers on her. He will do whatever it takes to protect her. A lot of women have trouble with a man because he has never accepted them in their boundary. And in fact, even if they're in a relationship, a lot of times all he's done is give her permission to cross the boundary, but he never accepted her. You know, and that's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get off on a tangent. But that boundary, you know, with regard to sports and team sports especially, a man learns how to join with other men in a boundary and to accomplish a common goal. Especially when it's not as much now because now they got participation trophies, but you used to have to like try out to be on a team. You couldn't just show up. You had to actually do the work and everything. It's a little different now. It's like you just show up now. You could suck, not do anything, get a participation trophy. Nah, you had to work for stuff, right? But once you in that like team sports, it teaches that boundary. Like it's us against them. You know, the colors, the rituals, and everything that they do before a team. That enforces the boundary. When you playing another team, that's a man's boundary against your boundary, your group's boundary against their boundary. And you learn how to work together. You learn how to be comrades. You learn how to be a team. That's an important part with a man. That's a very important part. And especially in sports like a contact sport like football. Yeah, I play some football too. But especially a contact sport like football, you know, it's almost stimulation of war. If you really think about it, especially how brutal it can be, even on a touch level. You know, even if you're just playing like no pads, touch, or like they got leagues now for like no pads tackle. Well, it creates a boundary. It's like us against them, but it's an important thing. You learn how to work with other men to accomplish a goal in sports, you know, to win. You know, And another part, even when you play that other team, it teaches you to respect the warrior in another man. That's why, like, I was talking about the game, and then I was watching afterwards. I always watch how teams interact after a game, because it's respect. Because if you know, okay, like in college basketball, if you play somebody and they drop 30 on your ass, and then you do something, you had a good game against them, they show each other the most respect. It's like, damn, even if you beat them, like, I remember, there might be times when some dude scored like 30 points on a team, but his team still lose. But the other team, the winning team, they go seek out that dude. They be like, damn, they go right to him, show him that respect. And, that's a manhood thing, respecting the warrior in another man. And really it's a sacred thing, because you learn how to win in life, but you learn how to lose. You learn how to work with people. You know how to respect your opponent. You learn how to respect the game and to respect life. You learn how to keep your boundary enforced. Like, sports are very important. Because my son's playing some ball, Yeah, too bad. They still more intellectual types, but still. And that's one thing I would even recommend any fathers. Just, you don't have to have jocks, but maybe have them just play like something a little bit, seriously. You can learn it. I mean, yeah, they don't have to be football players, because I'm going to be honest, I don't let my own kids play football because of the concussions and stuff now, right? But, maybe touch or something like that, right? But, have them do something. And like I said, I know there's a part of sports that's a bad thing, and I'm going to get into that on more the business aspect on my business channel. But it teaches many lessons. Once again, I think about that young boy. I wonder what he's doing now. The one I talked about, he was, like I said, he was rambunctious, doing all this stuff. But then when it came time to it, he was getting everybody else in line just because I rode him hard. I was just like, I was a father figure to that young boy. He'd probably take a life for him, because he was like, get in line for coach. I never forget that. He said, coach told y'all to get in line. What y'all waiting around for? It is a little 8-year-old kid. But he had that name, he was a tough competitor too. So, anyway, right, that's it. It's an important thing, especially in a culture. If you really think about it, we don't have a rites of passage like we do in like indigenous cultures, where the kid would have to go out and maybe hunt something or build something. I mean, you have some cultures, they go out hunting by themselves. They had to do it, It's the closest thing we have in this culture. I mean, yeah, you got some people doing the rites of passage, but, it's one thing to go through some artificially prepared ceremonies, but it's another thing, like something like in sports, to really put it to practice. You put a lot of stuff in practice, and I think that's why you get some kids, so-called bad kids out there. They won't do anything for anybody else, but the coach say, hey, you gonna run these laps. They like, shit, they go run them. And, and just a shout out to everybody out there, all the men out there who get out there, they coach basketball, coach football, coach soccer, or like coach baseball, any little league thing, lacrosse. Especially if you're in the Maryland area, East Coast, man, you coaching lacrosse, anything, where you like are reaching out to people, reaching out to young boys and actually molding them. It's a powerful thing. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.